Hey guys, it's Laurie. Thanks for stopping by. Let's go make something. I'm starting my Let It Snow wreath by using the 14-inch wire form from the Dollar Tree. Along with the white mesh, my Dollar Tree was carrying this really pretty white flocked mesh. So I'm going to be using both of these in the project, and I will list all the supplies down below in my description. Getting started, I'm pairing up the white and the flocked mesh. When I'm working with more than one roll of mesh, I like to pair them up. It's just so much easier to work with one roll. To attach the mesh, I'm using chenille stems that I cut in half. I'm starting by pairing up my flocked and white mesh, and I'm gathering the two ends together and attaching them with a chenille stem. Once I'm done, I go under the form and attach it to the center supports. Here comes the fun part, making sure that you keep the mesh together. You're then going to slide them under the first two rows on the form. I'm making my loops about 3 inches. After my first loop, I'm making my second by pushing the mesh through the second and third sections on the form. Be sure to hold on to your loops while you're doing this. To finish off my row, I'm now placing the mesh through the last two sections. And to help keep everything in place, I'm then going to twist it a couple of times. And now all I'm doing is taking my mesh, moving it back to the front, and making another loop next to my first loop. Be sure to hold each loop tightly to keep things in place, and also be sure that your mesh is running together. I'm making my wreath with double rolls of mesh because I like a thicker wreath, but you can always do this with single rolls of mesh as well. I continue adding the loops, and you'll notice as they fill the section, you'll no longer need to hold on to them. When I come to the end of the section, I'm gathering the two ends of mesh and attaching them together with a chenille stem and placing them around the wire support just like I did in the beginning. I was only able to find 3 rolls of the flocked mesh, so on my wreath I'm going to alternate the sections by using the flocked and then the plain white. Starting my second section, I'm following the exact same instructions. I'm pairing up my 2 pieces of plain white mesh and attaching them together with the chenille stem. Once again, I'm attaching that to the center support, placing my mesh under the form, and then starting my first loop in the first section. I double checked my loops, making sure they were the same size. You're going to add your second and then your third loop. Then once again, twist your mesh and follow the same instructions. One thing I learned while making this wreath is that Dollar Tree mesh loves sweaters. As you can see, I'm wearing one, and I think at one point there was more mesh attached to me than the wreath. So I guess one quick tip is don't wear a sweater while you're making this wreath. I'm going to finish up my wreath, but before I do, I wanted to let you know that I'm making my project today as part of a collab with 2 of my all-time favorite people, Kay and Trish from the Crafting Cousins. They are the sweetest women and they have an amazing channel, and I'll let you in on a little secret. I actually asked them if I could be the 3rd cousin and they said I could. I know you'll love them as much as I do, so make sure that you head on over and check them out. If you're new to my channel, I'd love for you to click that little red subscribe button below. I'm starting with some ribbon accents. I bought these at Hobby Lobby for 50% off because I'm making this wreath a gift but the Dollar Tree has some really pretty holiday ribbon you can also use. I like to cut all my ribbons at once, so I cut a piece of cardstock at 10 inches, and I'm using this really pretty mesh that I found at the Dollar Tree that happened to be a perfect match. I'm adding 8 ribbons to my wreath, and I'm going to use this as the bottom. So I wrapped it 4 times and then I cut it in half. Once the mesh was cut, I then moved on to cutting my ribbons. I'm adding 3 different ribbons along with the mesh, and I'm adding 8 accents to the wreath. With all my ribbons and my mesh cut at 10 inches, I'm now going to dovetail the ends. It's very easy. All you need to do is fold your ribbon in half and then cut away the ends at an angle. Cutting the ribbons with a dovetailed end is optional and just a personal preference. To make my ribbon accents, I'm attaching them together with some floral wire. I'm making 4 with the white ribbon and blue snowflakes on the top. I make sure that my ends all match up, and then I fold the ribbon in half and attach it together with the floral wire. I'm also making 4 bundles with the blue snowflakes on the top. I'm adding my 8 ribbon accents, and I'm spacing them evenly around the wreath. To hold the ribbons in place, I'm finding the 2 center supports and wrapping the wire around those. I moved around the wreath, adding the ribbons until all 8 were attached. For the center of my wreath, I'm using the Let It Snow sign from the Dollar Tree. To complement my ribbons, I'm painting it with this pretty blue acrylic paint. Once my Let It Snow was done, I then painted the snowflake white. Because my wreath is a gift and I'm not sure if it will be exposed to any of the elements, I ended up giving the Let It Snow a coat of Mod Podge. When everything was dry, I had this sparkly snowflake in my stash, so I hot glued it over the snowflake on the sign. I want my sign to be permanent, so I centered it and then hot glued it to the mesh. What's a Let It Snow wreath without some snowflakes? I'm adding in a package of the Dollar Tree snowflakes, and I'm hot gluing them evenly around the wreath. After the plain white snowflakes were added, I'm now going to add my inspiration snowflakes. When I found these at the Dollar Tree, these are what inspired me to make this wreath. I was only able to find 6, so I'm going to evenly space these on the wreath as well. Once all these beautiful snowflakes are attached, I'm going to give it a little jingle with these large jingle bells from the Dollar Tree. Adding them is super easy. I'm going to hot glue one in the center of each of my bows. To add a frosty accent to my wreath, I'm using some of these silver branches from the Dollar Tree. I cut them into pieces and I hot glued them here and there to accent the wreath. And I took a look at it and I just didn't think the snowflake on the front was enough. Just seemed like it was lacking. So I went into my stash and I found this pretty Dollar Tree snowflake ornament. I thought that might be perfect on the front. That was exactly what this wreath needed, and now it's complete. Thank you so much for stopping by and hanging out with me. If you're new, please consider clicking that little red subscribe button below. I'll see you all very soon. Bye, everybody!